Alright, this is going to be a run on the Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum Part 2 quest, which I'm told is really hard. This is actually my second completion of it because I forgot to record the first time, and I'm using a similar strategy both times. The Avatar mentioned that this quest was one of the either the hardest or second hardest in the game, and that it would force me out of my comfort zone. I kind of took the line about being forced out of my comfort zone as a challenge, and refused to leave my comfort zone, which is why, even though I'm required to play Half-Dragon, I'm still going to be using Avatar's Codex. And it sounds a little silly, but I don't think it's actually a bad approach. Avatar's Codex legitimately doesn't work with Half-Dragon at all, but it really does help with a lot of the nasty status effects that enemies in this dungeon have. And I actually found a lot of success with this build once I stopped prepping Mystera. Wait, what is a very good early find? It lets us position around the Sun Priestesses so that we don't have to worry about them making some enemies basically inassailable. And, of course, having a way to turn off enemies' retaliate is really good. Earthmother is also a good find. Earthmother's not necessary, to be clear. My first my first successful run, I did not find Earthmother. I used Jehora Jeheyu instead. So this isn't just like a scum for Earthmother type situation. This is only my fourth attempt once I stopped prepping Mystera. I did a lot of attempts with Mystera and Noor, and it just does not work. And I think a large part of it is because Mystic Balance messes with that Lemisi that you get in the downstairs area and are meant to rely on. It makes it unusable for restoring mana before you get the Shadow Heart, and then even once you get the Shadow Heart, it's much less efficient. So I eventually decided to stop going for Mystic Balance, and then once there's no Mystic Balance, why even go for Mystera at all? Binlore is a great find here. It's basically free piety, and there's always a risk of needing to punch down a plant at some point. This Earthmother takes off I think 15 piety, which I think that might be the highest single piety penalty of anything in the game, unless you count like getting mana burn to 20 mana with Mystera. So being able to just punch down a couple plants when we really need to is very nice. Earthmother gives us a lot of good things. The extra stats, we're going to get a few layers of corrosion on enemies and a few layers of damage reduction on ourselves to help with early fights. She can entangle, which is huge for turning off Retaliate Fireball, although we can't use it for the final gauntlet. And she gives us Ima Wall, which gives us a ton of extra experience, and that's especially important because we do have to reach level 10. Really want to wait past one of those level 6 guards. It's always the Frostblades, I think, and Frostblades are by far the worst kind of enemy for us. We had to take on a level 2 Frostblade in order to get our first level up, just because we found several level 2s and they were all Frostblades. So eventually I just had to bite the bullet and take it. Luckily, taking on a level 2 isn't so bad. At higher levels, they're going to be not really an option, which is why I'm happy to petrify high-level Frost Nagas and for Ima Wall, because it gives good piety, and I know I'm not going to use them for anything else. The Frostblades are... We won't be fighting any of them for a long time. Unfortunately, there is one in the downstairs area that we will have to fight, and it's by far the hardest of the 4. But until then, we're going to just sort of pretend they don't exist. So this is actually my 4th attempt with Conjunction instead of prepping Mystera, and as I said, I already won one of the previous attempts, which was actually my first attempt. So out of 4 runs with this particular strategy, Codex and the Conjunction prep, that's a 50% win rate. That feels pretty good to me. Certainly a lot better than I was expecting, considering that Half-Dragon and Codex don't really work together. Like, I know I had that run as a Gorgon in Naga City curious, but Gorgon actually worked really well with Codex in a lot of ways, and Half Dragon really doesn't. Glowing Guardian is probably the worst god to find, since we can not even think about using him, nor can we even think about desecrating him. But that's Conjunction for you. That's okay, we'll get some useless ones. Exploring there was a mistake. I was at almost full mana, and I was exploring into 4 monsters. It was very likely one of them was going to be a Shadow Soul, and would drain my mana. So that was a mistake. If I saw all those monsters together, I should have explored that while my mana was empty. Okay, this Swamp Soul is interesting. If currently we can kill it exactly, the level 5 Swamp Soul, in 2 casts of Burn to Res, but we're 1 mana short, and if we explore a tile, it'll heal 4 and it won't die. So, we're doing the calculations, trying to find a solution, and the answer is if we give it 2 more stacks of corrosion, then we can throw a fireball, explore a tile, and throw a fireball, and that will be lethal. So, it's nice to take these corrosion stacks in general, just because it gives you so much value over the course of the run, but it also lets you do these very specific calculated things, and the reason we had so much piety to do all that is specifically because we have been IMO-walling all these high-level frost blades. I guess I could have just punched him down, but oh well, I at least avoided getting a corrosion this way. This Swamp Soul, now that we're a higher level, we don't need to do a special setup for. Swamp Souls are definitely our favorite prey for most of the time, which you might think surprising because they have mana burn, which is like the one enemy trait that we really, really hate. But they don't really have any defenses, which means for most of the run, a Swamp Soul a level higher than us can be killed with 2 heavy fireballs. So as long as we can make them dizzy, so that they don't counterattack the first time, they won't actually get to land a hit on us and they'll die in 2 fireballs. And between Earthmother and Wait What, we've got plenty of ways of making them dizzy, so that won't be a problem. So because of that, we're always happy to see high-level Swamp Souls, because despite having mana burn, they are the easiest ones for us to go after. The Fireweavers aren't so bad. We do have to be kind of careful about Unstable. It's not as trivial to play around as it is as a sorcerer, but they're still good prey. The Shadow Sires aren't bad. We do have to pay off the curse debt later. But between having trouble between it taking a lot of effort to discharge Frostbite and the death protections, we really don't want to deal with the Frost Blades. The Sun Priestesses, of course, are very nice targets as well, since they don't really have any defenses of their own. Normally a high-level Sun Priestess is kind of a mixed blessing, because they are probably making a lot of other enemies inassailable. There, see a Swamp Soul 1 level higher than us? That's perfect. That's the sort of thing we're really happy to see, and maybe I got a bit lucky on this particular run with a good number of Swamp Souls spawning, but I don't think it was a ridiculously high number. We just avoided getting screwed by not getting Swamp Souls at all. Fireheart, very good item to find in the long run, especially since we always like that sort of resource that we can bring into the final trial. Because we're going to lose access to most of our resources by then, so anything we can take with us is going to be really nice. Dragon Soul as well, of course. Between that and the Fireheart, we're going to have quite good sustain. The blue bead is really nice for now, makes things a lot more efficient in the exploration phase. It won't do anything in the final boss battle, of course, but even in the downstairs gauntlet it'll be quite nice. Because the enemies are all dizzy, I can typically do an attack pattern of throwing a fireball, then hitting them, then throwing a fireball again, which is what I'm going to do here. Because they're dizzy to start with, they don't counterattack the first fireball, and because they dive to the second fireball, they don't retaliate that either, which gives me the health I need to actually attack them physically. Which is not something I'm used to relying on as a Codex user, but we're not as single-minded as we are usually due to the lack of Mystera. Just killing off a couple weak enemies to get rid of our curse and entanglement. And the Fire Weavers are the ones I want to take care of now because those are the ones with unstable, and it's a lot there, which makes them a bit riskier to take down in the middle of boss battles to pop a burning stack, for example. Perhaps not riskier, but just have to be careful, and they cost a little bit of resources, so that's something we'd rather not pay later. Lekon's sub-dungeon is a bit unfortunate. We don't really have any use for it. There's no goats upstairs, and the goats downstairs aren't really worth the piety spent on them. Although, I suppose if I fire... Well, I stepped in corrosion there by mistake. That was stupid. My recommendation is don't step in corrosion pools for no reason. I suppose in retrospect that what we could have done with Lekon is stand in the middle to summon the goats, fireball one of them to get out, and then use the rest as petrify targets, where they would basically be worth 10 piety, and they wouldn't cost us a potentially useful monster, they wouldn't... And they'd be worth more piety than a plant, and wouldn't reduce the number of plants that we can turn into mana points later. But we don't end up needing it, and so I'm okay with not using it. Looking at our health bar, the boss has 115 attack power, so we are just at the point where we can feasibly take one hit, and that means that it's time to start the boss fight. I'm using Can of Whoopaz because that effectively takes out half of this boss's health because the second half is fake. I start out with a fireball because she's dizzy, she can't counter. Then a punch into that statue. I can't fireball again, so I'm thinking about what to do. Realistically, I should just wait-what the boss, but I didn't think of that. So, first I'm gonna IMO-wall this random tile here, which isn't completely irrelevant. I want an unbroken series of wall tiles following the boss, so that especially in the very last battle, I can just knock her through walls very easily to pop death protections. But in the meantime, there's not really a whole lot I can do here aside from dizzying her, which I should have done. We don't need this Lemmy because we know we're going to find another one downstairs, so I may as well convert it now for a little bit of knockback damage. I use a health potion here. I think that is incorrect. This is the last major mandatory battle where we can use Earthmother's entanglement to help us avoid taking damage. So I should have been relying solely on entanglement for this battle to protect my health, and saved all the health potions for later on downstairs. So a little bit inefficient there. Positioning carefully so I don't explore, because darkness upstairs is going to be extremely valuable late in the game. As I was saying, Fireweaver is actually the most dangerous monster for us. Or, not the most dangerous, but that's not true at all. But it is more dangerous than it normally would be for a Codex build, especially down here, where we can't just kill her in 2 hits due to Protective Blessing, or even in 3 hits. The Swamp Soul seems nasty because of the mana burn, but it's not going to be so bad. We can just fireball, and punch to death, and that'll give us a level up which will cure the mana burn. There was a soul orb upstairs, which I saw and considered buying, but this is the only mana burner we have to fight that remains, and we have a solution to the mana burn here, so why spend money on a soul orb if we don't need it? The Frostblade, on the other hand, is not so trivial. Between magic resist and 5 death protections, and really annoying frostbite that stacks up very quickly, this is going to be not easy to deal with. Normally, as a Codex user, it's pretty easy to discharge our frostbites, but all the enemies upstairs are dizzy, or slowed, which means that they won't retaliate the first fireball, so we'd have to fireball them twice in order to make them retaliate. And a lot of them are not strong enough to survive that, and the ones that are very high level, and we might not be strong enough to survive their frostbite-fueled hit. You can use Wait What here to make this guy dizzy so he can't counterattack me. We've got plenty of mana from the Earthmother's boons. Didn't get full mana out of that one, though. I should have counted the plants more carefully. We've got tons of popcorn upstairs, so we can use that to get 2 death protection pops for every fireball we send. But it's hard for us to survive even a single hit. The frostbites have really added up. Luckily, we had a fully charged Fireheart. We can afford to use it now, and it'll be recharged by the time we're ready to go into the end boss. Right, we're low on mana, so we can explore into the Shadow Scythe now. Shadow Sire, that's what they're called. This one isn't really that bad at all. It dies in 3 hits. It does give us a bit of Cursed and Entangled, but we can pay off the deck very easily. We have a lot of low-level monsters just sitting around waiting to be popcorned up. That's not the correct tense of the word popcorn, but whatever. I'm not going to get around to fighting that level 6, so may as well use that as the experience. And I'm exploring downstairs rather than upstairs because the other sub-dungeons go away when we get to the final phase of the game, but the upstairs doesn't. So exploration space upstairs is still going to be available, and downstairs isn't, so I may as well use the downstairs explorers while I still have them. There are no plants left, but Entanglement, in addition to dizzying enemies, is a super efficient source of plants, so that's fine. And this is very convenient because we are almost at level 10. We did have to hit level 10 for this quest. We probably wanted to hit level 10 anyhow, considering how difficult this run is. The annoying thing is that I had 3 curses and I'm 4 XP from leveling. I can't actually kill enough monsters to remove the curses without leveling up. But luckily, I've got Imo Wall, and turning monsters to stone with Imo Wall apparently removes curses. I wasn't sure if that would actually work, but it does, so I'm very happy about that. Another option would have been to buy more of those corrosion boon from Earthmother, which also removes curse, but the corrosion itself would be useless to us, so I'm glad I didn't have to resort to that. Can clear out Imo Wall now. It has outlived its usefulness. And, thinking pretty hard about what to buy here. I don't know how Bloody Sigil interacts with Shadowheart. Mage Plate, normally, this would be the best item for us for a Codex user, but we actually do physical attacks fairly often, so the drawback isn't entirely blank. Wait, what I don't think we're going to be using anymore. I think Helpma is more efficient, especially since during the end boss, we're probably going to want to knock the boss through walls with physical attacks, because that takes off 2 death protections. And we're not expecting to be able to take off 2 death protections with each fireball, because we aren't expecting there to be any monsters alive to kill to pop the burning stack. buying a few more Earthmother boons before we go into this next fight. The Mage Plate isn't amazing, but there's certainly nothing better than it available. So Mage Plate is ultimately what we're going to end up going with. Thinking really hard about this shopping expedition. And there's still more gold here so that I can afford the Schadenfreude potion, which is nice. There's no inventory space for it yet, but we're not going to need the blue bead for the final boss, so there will be later. Of course, now that I agonized over shopping for so long, when I get down here I remember, oh yeah, I wanted to have a Lemmy in my inventory. I can't actually use this Mage Plate. Maybe I should have converted the shield instead, but oh well. The Mage Plate wasn't strictly good. Like, it had an actual drawback, so I'm okay with getting rid of it. And let's take on Alyssa again. Getting a level up heal. This is going to be the last time we can make use of Earthmother, so we're going to be relying heavily on her for this fight. Of course, alternating between attacking the boss directly with fireballs and killing other monsters gives us a lot of value in terms of the burning stacks. Popping death protections. And whenever we're out of mana, we just ask our patron goddess for a nice refill. You hear a distant cry. That's what it says if you end this phase of the battle while you're upstairs. Normally it locks you downstairs, but it can't since we're not there yet. So once we go downstairs, we'll be locked in and we'll get the Shadow Heart, and we won't have access to any of these upstairs resources anymore. So we want to do everything we can before that happens. And one thing I'd like to do is clear off the Frostbite, which is why I'm attacking the Naga Fireweaver. Killing it doesn't actually matter. I really just wanted to get rid of the Frostbite. Another thing we want to do is charge up our Fireheart. We'll be able to fully heal down in the basement with Lemmy. So until we go to do that, I want to spend as much mana as I can on just casting spells. Not even to get anything done necessarily, just for the sake of charging Fireheart. Kind of odd that Earthmother altar has the intact sprite on the map, but shows as destroyed if you stand on it and try to use it. I don't know exactly how that sub-dungeon works. Killing off a few weak monsters just for the sake of getting a little more Earthmother piety. Most of the Earthmother's boons we can't take with us, but there is one thing that we can take with us, and that is Vine Form. The extra health and damage reduction will stay with us. So, certainly one more Vine Form won't do that much, but it's certainly better than nothing. And we've got a ton of darkness available up here, which is making me feel really good for the final fight, because having lots of darkness available to explore with Shadowheart's help is really big. And here, we're converting blue beads since it won't trigger ever again, and that's making room for Schadenfreude potion. And with that, we're ready to go downstairs. I still want Helpma for combat and Lemmy to access the inaccessible darkness, so I think Shield is the thing to convert here. It's not a completely free conversion by any means. We do like having the damage reduction. Damage reduction stacks very well with itself, so the shield worked nicely with all of the damage reduction that the Earthmother gave us. But it's worth it in order to be able to hold on to Helpma for lots of healing. And there I finally knock her into the wall, dealing damage. that the wall that I made with I'm a Wall so long ago for no particular reason. So it may have seemed like a stupid waste of time, and compared to making her dizzy, it probably was. But that Chekhov's gun did get fired in the end. I'm doing a lot of exploring here because I want to get down to 0 mana in order to get full Schadenfreude value, and it takes me a while to realize that if I'm spending 6 mana per fireball and healing 2 per tile, that's not I'm never going to be at exactly 0. So, hence the helpma there. And I also realize here that regeneration might be more efficient once we're in the death protection phase of the fight, because then we don't mind her healing some, because we're going to be knocking her back down to 0 anyhow. So that's why I've suddenly switched from exploring to guzzling down every potion in sight. Explored a little there so that I could get maximum efficiency out of my Fireheart. And I was really surprised to see these plants here. I honestly didn't expect them to stick around. But I'm really glad they did, because that means that we can attack them to pop the burning stacks. So we really can remove 2 death protections with every fireball. And the Earthmother won't mind us attacking them a little because we still have some of those indulgences from Desecrating Bin lore. And because of that, this fight is over. Yeah, so 2 wins out of 4 with Conjunction Avatar's Codex. You can do it with Earthmother, you can do it with Jehora Jeheyu. I'm not sure what other gods would work, those seem like the 2 best, but I'm very satisfied with how this worked out. And if this quest is really hard, really like one of the hardest in the game, like everyone else was saying, then I'm gonna say maybe Avatar's Codex isn't just me being silly and stubborn and sticking with my preferred weapon of choice, but it might actually be a smart, good, efficient way of clearing this. So, thank you.